We know the Queen's Guard as just some of those British guys with the funny hats and the red uniforms who never blink. But what we see on YouTube and in the movies is not the same as the real-life Queen's Guard. This video will prove to you that these guys are actually dangerous. So, here are the 10 reasons you never mess with the Queen's Guard. Let's dive right into it, shall we? Number 10. Only a few people in history have managed to get past the Queen's Guard. Even though there are numerous incidences where people have attempted to get past the Queen's Guard, none come even close to the footage of the guy back in 2012 who wanted to climb Buckingham Palace. Even though the guards warned him against doing so, the man couldn't care less. So, the guards did what they thought was best. They pointed their loaded SA-80 rifles at him and told him to calmly come down. Needless to say, the guy had no other option but to do so. Even though we are led to think that the guards are only there because of tradition, they actually carry loaded guns and are trained to shoot in the case of an intrusion. Speaking of loaded guns. Number 9. They are armed to the teeth. Have you seen that video of a guy that placed his hand on the shoulder of one of the Queen's Guard while he was marching? If you haven't, we'll talk about that in a while. But first, here's how the Queen's Guard react in the case of an intrusion. They will first stomp the ground and then shout, "Stand back" from the Queen's Guard. If the intruder doesn't back off, they're obliged to shout again. Now, should the nuisance or threat persist, the guard assumes the position of port arms, where he points his gun at the crowd. At this point, almost every stubborn tourist stops whatever they're doing. But for the super persistent, there's a special button that the guard presses as the fourth and final step. And this is when the Metropolitan Police come in and arrest the man or woman causing the trouble. Number 8. The hats are made from bearskin. For all of the 36 soldiers and the 3 officers, the royal family has ordered special hats to be designed, so they give them their distinct look. They call it a bearskin, and there's actually a pretty good reason for this. The hats are actually made from 100% bearskin from American black bears. Now, since these hats are so heavy, the guards have to wear the straps on their noses. Why the noses? Well, should the hat get knocked back by a bullet, it won't break the guardsman's neck if the strap is placed around the nose. Because the British Army has to kill so many bears annually for these hats, some animal rights activists have been trying to convince the royal family to start using faux fur, but none can even come close to its weight and the ability to repel water. So, bearskin hats it is then. Number 7. The test has a 65% pass rate. Since the Queen's Guard are part of the British Army, they have to undergo a 6-month training regimen, just like any other soldier. Their training is done at ITC Catterick in Yorkshire, and the test is so hard that it has a 65% pass rate. Here's what the training consists of. They cover 28 weeks of intense military training, where the guardsmen are trained in personal administration, marching, parading, fieldcraft, fitness, learning to operate their SA-80 rifle, and learning how to work as a team when it's necessary. Number 6. They placed ropes to avoid incidents with the public. After the 2012 incident we talked about earlier, the Queen's Guard has tried to limit the contact the tourists have with the Queen's Guard to protect civilians and avoid any future incidents. If you've been to Buckingham Palace recently, you'll notice that there are ropes that have been placed all around the Queen's Guard's posts. This has diminished the number of intrusions, but it hasn't eliminated them altogether. Number 5. The sex of the monarch determines their name. Now, we know what you're thinking, and we'll just say that you're a pervert, that's all. Okay, now let's talk about the Queen's Guard. Their name depends upon the gender of the reigning monarch. If there's a king on the throne, they'll be called the King's Guard. But since Queen Elizabeth II is one stubborn lady, we'll be seeing more of the Queen's Guard in the years to come. And yes, the name Queen's Guard was given to the security service responsible for the protection of Buckingham Palace and the reigning monarch and their families. But this hasn't always been the case. The Queen's Guard have been given the task of protecting the royal family since the year 1660. Now, some of you might think that's quite a long time, But remember, the British Empire has been going strong for about 11 centuries, so that's relatively recent. Number 4. Every battalion is given a special location to protect. As you might have known, there are several battalions in the Queen's Guard, and until recently, they used to rotate their positions annually. This means that every year, the battalions would rotate to different positions throughout the castle. But all of that changed back in 2006. This is the year that the arms plot system ceased. This meant that every battalion would be given a permanent post to occupy, and that would be the end of that. However, there is this small exception to the rule. You see, some of the posting as well as the light role infantry, the battalions would still continue to rotate. Number 3. Contrary to popular belief, the Queen's Guard actually blink. Now, watching all of those British movies, some of us were led to believe that the Queen's Guard are not allowed to even blink while guarding the royal family and their residences. But that's actually not true. You see, these guys usually do a lot of marching on the campus. They do drills, and they sometimes have to deal with stubborn tourists who disrespect them and the Queen. Doing all of this and not blinking even once is as close to impossible as you can get. However, there is one thing that they can't do. You see, the Queen's Guard are not allowed to laugh while at their post. They have to keep a straight face, but as one of them actually said, quote, "You can't help it. Some people are just too damn funny." Like this funny chap who came to his friend's workplace just to make him laugh. And the guy couldn't keep a straight face. He is only human after all. Number 2. They receive low pay for high performance. But with all of the training and those heavy hats, plus dealing with annoying tourists, the Queen's Guard don't get paid nearly enough for their work. Here's why. According to our sources, an average Queen's Guard can make around £20,000 per year. That is equal to $26,500. And if we're talking about an elderly Queen's Guard with a lot of experience, then you could be looking at an annual salary of £40,000 or $53,000. Here's why this salary is not enough. Even though the guards have their meals at the palace, they do have to risk their lives in case someone tries to attack the Queen. Plus, when you add on top of that the hours upon hours of standing in one place, you're looking at a job that's going to poorly influence the person's health. Still, with all of that training they have to endure, these guys receive a measly $26,000. At least they can say they work for the Queen of Britain, which is a prestige in and of itself. Number 1. It's not uncommon for them to push ignorant tourists during a patrol. Now, we save the best for last. This is where we've decided to include all of the incidences that have happened over the years. For example, this first clip is of a Queen's Guard actually punching a very annoying tourist in the freaking face. After he refused to stop mocking him after he was warned, the guard had no other option but to punch him dead in the face. Or how about this dumb guy that tried to be cool by putting his hand on the shoulder of the Queen's Guard? This gesture almost had him killed, as he immediately told him to back off and pointed his loaded gun at him. To say he was screaming like a little girl would be an understatement. And finally, here's a couple of people getting shoved over by the Queen's Guard who were on patrol, and these ignorant tourists refuse to move out of the way. The first one is this woman in a yellow dress who wanted to get a better picture by jumping over the rope. Or how about this couple that didn't even have the time to get out of their way? Or even this guy who wanted to get a closer look at the guard's march. And last but not least, we have a Queen's Guard that actually pointed the gun at the tourists climbing over the fence. And on that note, we end this video. But hey, have you ever seen a Queen's Guard laugh before? You can tell us in the comments section below. If you'd like more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.